This week is a wonderful week to be preparing yourself for the possibility, Lord willing, not necessary, but the possibility of a self-quarantine. Now that's going to be about 14 to even 30 days, maybe as much as 3 months, that you need to spend in your home protecting your family and loved ones from any kind of germs that would come in or go out of that house. I want you to be completely at ease and have everything you need. And some of you have written and said, yeah, we've got toilet paper and those masks and we're good to go in those areas, but what do we even buy as a grocery list? So we're right here at the grocery store. We're gonna go on in and I'm gonna fill my basket with the most important nutrition that I can find. Not only that's going to give you 14 to 30 or even 3 months supply of nutrition, but is going to be superfoods that help boost your immune system. And that's vitally important for you as you're choosing what you're gonna spend your money on. So let's go on inside and see what we can do to have the best bang for our buck in boosting our immune system with this grocery list. Here we go. Right as you come in the door at my grocery store, you're gonna see the fresh produce aisle, and we might as well start there, and we might as well start with spinach. Some of you love it, some of you hate it, but I'm just gonna encourage you, try to learn a way to love it because it's so high in iron and protein. It's gonna be exceptional for boosting your immune system along with all the rest of the stuff we get. And the next thing on the same aisle, just a little bit further down, is that purple cabbage, which is going to be fantastic eaten just raw or raw with a little salt on it, but it's also one of the easiest things for you to ferment. And like we have mentioned before, fermented foods are going to be some of the most exceptionally relevant foods to have in your system if you're trying to boost your immune system. Next, we're going to go over here and get some sweet potatoes. Those are just an all-around favorite and can be fixed so many ways. If you don't like them with brown sugar on top, then fix them with garlic salt on top or a little bit of lemon, or roast them. Sweet potatoes are good for so many things. And then we're over to the bell peppers. Now, get whatever color you like, but they are fantastic in so many ways for boosting your immune system. It's worth it, and if you like the hotter peppers, go ahead and help yourself to those. Next, we're going to move over here to the garlic cloves, and I want you to get as much as you can easily afford. The smaller ones, of course, are going to be a little less expensive, but what you're going to be doing with these is peeling them and taking those separate garlic cloves, stuffing a jar with them, and then pouring it full of raw honey. So you can expect that the very next thing on your list to get is raw honey. The best you can afford and the most local honey that you can afford. But do what you can do with your particular budget. Before we get too far away from me talking about garlic cloves and eating them whole in that raw honey, which might scare you off a little, there's also ginger, which is so good. It's also very high in antioxidant properties, and it has that wonderful spicy aroma that opens up your nasal passages and your lungs, sort of like Vicks Vapor Rub does, if you're familiar with that. But it also reduces pain and inflammation and can reduce nausea if you have that. So ginger is just one of those exceptional ones that you want to get, and the smoother, fatter, the better when you're buying ginger. Next, which goes well with ginger, is those apples. And I'm going to say get whichever kind you want, but the ones that seem to last the longest if you're trying to self-quarantine for a while are going to be these Granny Smith apples. They're green, they're a little bit tartar and with a hint less sugar than some of the other apples. And they have kind of a more crispness to them, but they don't go soft and mushy quite as fast as other kinds of apples. But get whichever kind you want and you'll eat the most of. You can make everything from pies to applesauce or whatever works for your family. Next, this is one of the most important ones, and don't miss this. I want you to have some kind of citrus. So whatever works, whether that's lemons or limes or grapefruit, or some variation of oranges. One of my favorites are the little mandarin oranges or clementines. Whatever you've got in your area, you need to get citrus in your system. It's one of the best sources of vitamin C. And for this particular virus that we're all fighting off right now, this COVID-19, they're saying that one of the few remedies that they've seen any hopeful progress with is high doses of vitamin C. So don't skip this. Get whatever and as much citrus as possible. And while we're over here in this area, let's go stop by the berry aisle. And the darker the berry, the better usually. So blackberries or blueberries, or if you have access to Bing cherries or something like that, go ahead and load up on whatever you're able to afford. And the darker the berry, usually the better for what we're wanting as far as a superfood. Now let's walk over and get some walnuts or pumpkin seeds or almonds, whatever kind of nuts that you have with the highest quality nutrition to them. And I'm strongly recommending walnuts or even pumpkin seeds for this, but you may be allergic to this and you may not be able to have those on your menu. For the rest of us, try to get something like that. Coconut oil is the next thing on my grocery list. Coconut oil has so many wonderful properties. You know it as what MCT oil comes from. Coconut oil is anti-inflammatory, it's healing, it has wonderful properties that are just going to help you boost your immune system. And in this same baking aisle, there's always cinnamon. Thank the Lord for cinnamon. I love it. But my favorites are always going to be either Saigon cinnamon or Ceylon cinnamon. You want to get it and incorporate this as much as you can in your diet in the days to come, because this is going to help boost your immune system. It's going to help with any kind of inflammation you have in your body. And you can get turmeric if you can, because cinnamon and turmeric go so well together, and they're both so exceptionally good for your system. You'll want to load up as much as possible. And now let's get over to the maple syrup. Buy whichever one you can, but I'm just going to recommend you make sure that it's only maple syrup, and not with sugar added, not with any kind of preservatives or additives at all to it. You want pure maple syrup, which is a little bit more expensive, but entirely worth it. It's going to last you a long time and be delicious and very good for your system as a sweetener. Still over in this kind of section of the grocery store, you're going to find bone broth. And I'm talking about the kind that doesn't require refrigeration, but can be found on the shelf. Usually you can find concentrated bone broth. And I like to get both the beef and the chicken, because you're going to be able to use them in so many things. Now you could just get chicken stock, and that makes a wonderful soup and such, but why not get the extra added benefits health-wise of that bone broth that's going to taste wonderful. Chicken soup is one of the most exceptional treats that all of us enjoy if we do even think that we might be getting sick. And so this bone broth being used as a base for some chicken soup, which have the next ingredient I'm going to recommend of canned chicken. It's already cooked, it's ready to go, it's already chunked up into those bite-sized pieces. So if I was feeling sick and didn't want to go to a huge amount of work, you're going to put that with that bone broth, and then you're going to get some noodles. And generally the lighter, fluffier egg noodles are what we want. This is not a superfood, let me just say. I'm not claiming that it is, but it is going to make a wonderful, hearty chicken noodle soup for you, just in case somebody in your family does get sick. So as far as meats though, before we get too far away from that, I want us to go over and check out the salmon, because it is going to be the very most quality product that you're going to find when you're looking at meats and you're trying to find superfoods that are going to help boost your immune systems. Salmon is high in a lot of the good things that come in any kind of meat, and the most healthy. So chicken and that fresh salmon are the two that I'm recommending that you have in your home. All right, we're almost done with this list. We're going to head on over to the dairy aisle and get ourselves some milk, which is certainly not a superfood, but it is one of the staples in my home, where so many recipes and so many days start and end with a little glass of milk. And so I want you to at least have enough of it, and I've put it on the list for that reason only. Also, if you're allergic to whole milk and I recommend the kind that is not ultra pasteurized. I get the whole milk that's not ultra pasteurized. But if you're allergic to that, there's always the soy or the coconut milks or the almond milks that are available to you. Go ahead and load up now on those, and if you can get them in that boxed container, boy, those last for months and are fantastic to have on hand. Once we've got our milk, we also want to get some yogurt or kefir. Those are probiotics, or full of probiotics that are going to help us once we've eaten the greens that we've got over there with the spinach and the vegetables in the fresh fruits aisles. Well, the probiotics are what your body needs to be replenished and build up that immune system, and they're going to feed off of the prebiotics, which is all those greens that you've just eaten with the fresh vegetables. Of course, you have probably seen our episodes on how to make these yourself. Absolutely do that if you can. But this is what you would put on your grocery list in the event that you haven't made any of your own or don't want to do that. And lastly, I've got on here eggs. Almost lastly. I'll give you a wink on that and say almost last. You want to get double the amount of eggs that you normally would. And why I say this is, first of all, you don't know exactly probably how many days you might be in self-quarantine, but a dozen eggs or 2 dozen eggs might be just the right amount for your family. However, I would double that amount just to be safe, and then I would take so if I get, for me, 1 dozen eggs, I'll get 1 dozen extra, and I'm going to take these home and boil them up. And then, for me personally, I like to stick the boiled eggs right back in their container after they've cooled down and put them in the freezer. And I have heard warnings, yes, it does make the whites of them just a little bit rubbery. That's okay, because I'm going to probably dice them up and make a wonderful salad with them anyway later, and I won't even notice any slight rubberiness. But if you don't like that, you can just take that dozen of boiled eggs and put them in the refrigerator, and they should keep for at least a month or so. And when you run out of fresh eggs, at least you can each have a boiled egg, 1 per day, to get that amount of protein that's so good for your system. And egg whites are actually considered a superfood by many, so I learned that just this week. Bragg's organic apple cider vinegar. That's something that I take every day in the morning and the evening if I can remember. And of course, you know, I make my own homemade organic with the mother vinegar, and it's wonderful. But for those of you who don't make your own vinegar, it's all right. Go ahead and buy some. And of course, Bragg's makes a wonderful apple cider vinegar that's organic and has the mother in it. But there are other brands as well. So get whichever one you can afford. Just try to get it to be organic and with the mother. That's kind of important. And you don't want the white vinegar, you want the apple cider vinegar. I just want to mention 2 quick things. First of all, if you happen to be vegan, Nutritional Yeast is going to have some exceptional properties in it that are going to help boost your immune system. And it's sort of considered a superfood that you might want to think about making sure you have on your shelf in your pantry. It tastes very much like cheese. It's creamy, buttery, cheesy tasting. It's very, very good. There are superfoods you have access to that I haven't even mentioned. But just in case you have a family that despises anything green, at least get the super greens that you can find over there in the nutrition aisle or the organic section, where you're going to be able to sneak them into smoothies or yogurts or in the muffins that you make or the birthday cake. And it's okay to get a little bit creative. Whew. Well, we came, we saw, and we conquered, and we got almost everything that we wanted to on our superfood list to carry us through the next 14 to 30 days of self-quarantine. I do want to remind you again that this is not to replace the things that you absolutely should have in storage, like those 21 forever foods that we have on a different episode. I'll make sure that's linked above and below. Those are the things that just kind of are indefinitely shelf stable. But they aren't going to have that fresh nutrition that you need that's going to be excellent at boosting your immune system, which is exactly what we need for these purposes for this specific self-quarantine. There are also so many things I didn't cover. There are superfoods out there that you have in your area of the world that are easy to get your hands on, that are going to help you and your family boost your immune system, and I want to encourage you, avail yourselves of those things that you have nearby and share them with the rest of us, because there are other people that are just stymied right now wondering what to get on their grocery list for the next 14 to 30 days of self-quarantine. Share this video with someone you love though, because there are people out here that truly need this message. And take the time this week, as you know I'm going to tell you, find someone somewhere who is lonely or hurting or needs your help bringing them groceries, and be a blessing to them this week. And until I see you again, God bless you. Bye for now. Hey, before you go, this is my favorite part if you've stayed this long. I would love to share with you just a couple of verses out of the book of Isaiah, which is in the Old Testament of the Holy Bible. This is in chapter 58, verses 9 through 11. And it says this: "If you pour yourself out for the hungry, and you satisfy the desire of the afflicted, then shall your light shine in the darkness, and your gloom be just as the noonday. And the Lord will guide you continually, and He will satisfy you and your desires in the scorched place, and He will make your bones strong. And you shall be like a watered garden, like a spring of water, whose waters do not fail." What a promise! Now go spread the word.